And I think we are live.
Right. Thank you, and welcome everyone to the City of Annapolis Environmental Commission, our July 2024 meeting. I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm the chair, resident of Ward 5. I'll go ahead and call us to order, and I'll start us off with a roll. I'll just go in the order of commission members I see on my screen. So, Linda,
Hello, everyone. Linda Matthew. I am also from Ward 5.
Bill,
Good evening, everybody. Bill O'Leary, Ward 2.
Alicia,
Hi, Alicia Roberson, Ward 7.
Kathy,
Good evening. Happy welcome, Ward 5.
Marianne,
Hello, everyone. Mary Ann Marbury, Ward 1.
and I see Paul on the screen, but I can't tell if you're connected to the audio. Paul, can you try to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Paul Murphy, Ward 2.
Great, and we heard you. Thank you. All right, and let's see. Next, I'll go to city staff, and Jackie, we'll start with you.
Jackie Guile, Deputy City Manager, Resilience and Sustainability.
And Dylan,
Hi all, Dylan Lakonich, Environmental Programs Coordinator.
and our esteemed guest tonight, Betsy.
Hi, I'm Betsy McKeown, Stormwater Program Manager.
Great, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Betsy. I don't believe we have any meeting minutes from prior meetings to approve tonight. I think we're still need to catch up on those, but it means we can just kind of dive right in. So last month we talked a little bit about some of the city stormwater program efforts, and I think some of the budget items that were included and recently passed. And I know some of those elements are still in development, so we won't be getting into those, but we got a sense in our discussion last month that it'd be helpful to bring Betsy to us to kind of give us a crash course or a refresher course for many of us about what the city does, how the watershed restoration funding works, and how that goes out through the trust, and just some of the basics, but also to get a sense of where the program has come in recent years and where it plans to go next. So with that, I wasn't sure Jackie or Dylan have other thoughts to add on that. Maybe you've had discussions to the side with Betsy as well and have anything to add.
No, I just think you should let Betsy dive right into it.
All righty, will do. Betsy, take it away.
Okay, so hi, thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've presented to you all, so it's exciting to be invited back. Thank you. I, in full disclosure, did not have a lot of time to prepare because I really just wanted to just share what I know about the program, and I obviously know a lot. So within the last couple of years, the Public Works has taken on the stormwater program. Prior to that, it was pretty bifurcated. And what that's done is it's really improved management of the whole program. We've developed the Stormwater Program Manager position, which I obviously am in. But prior to that, I was also working on a lot of the aspects of the municipal separate storm sewer system permit. So I kind of knew a lot about what was happening already. And then we also hired an additional stormwater engineer and an additional environmental compliance inspector. So right now our team consists of myself in the program manager position, Jasmine Wilding and Mike Rosberg, who are two great stormwater engineers. And then I have two great inspectors as well. So with that staffing up, our program has made a lot of improvements. So I think last year those were the big improvements to report on. And then we go to the Watershed Stewards Academy conference every year. And what I thought I could do is present what we presented to them earlier in the spring, which kind of gives an overview of the improvements and progress we've made over the past year. Is that okay for me to present? and I'll try and go through it quickly. Okay, cool. So give me a second here. I did a dry run with Mark before. Okay, and then you should see my screen, but let me go to slideshow. Okay, can everyone see this?
Looks great.
Looks
Thank you.
perfect.
Okay, great. Now let me position your faces. I might need to pause occasionally. Okay, so we presented to the Watershed Stewards Academy annual conference in the spring, and then I just added that I'm giving the presentation again to you all today. Uh-oh, it's yelling at me. Hold on. Oh, okay. So, let's see. So a lot of our progress and priorities are outlined here. We continue on coordinating with the Chesapeake Bay Trust on the Anne Arundel County Grant Program. I think you all want to hear more about that, which I can get into after I give the presentation. We are starting a lot more watershed planning efforts, which I'll get into further in this presentation. We have completed an outfall risk assessment, and our big priority now is to address a lot of the deferred maintenance on our existing stormwater facilities. So this is the Chesapeake Bay Trust Anne Arundel County Watershed Restoration Grant Program. It typically opens in the spring. I'm looking at the dates here. We are in our 4th year right now, but we just made the award, so we'll be going into our 5th year, which is really exciting. Our program is different than the counties in that we fund watershed planning and design work. And I added a track this year to develop a grant program for maintenance work. We are seeing a lot of issues with some older stormwater facilities on private property, and it's been a big challenge for everyone really in the stormwater world. So I thought what we would do, and as we essentially since this presentation have awarded it to the Alliance of the Chesapeake Bay to help us develop a grant program that can provide assistance to folks that need help with maintenance on their stormwater facilities. It's a very cutting edge approach. We're really one of the first jurisdictions to do something like this. So I'm excited about it, but yeah, so stay tuned on how that goes. Really, the first year is going to be a lot of setting up the program and what the criteria is for the grants and maybe some implementation of maintenance, but it's really going to be setting up the program. And then tracks 3 and 4 are actual restoration work. What we're seeing now that we're entering in the 5th year, even the 4th year, we saw this, is that we funded so much planning and design that now people are coming in for construction funding, which far exceeds our available budget. What we put into the Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant Program is around $350,000. And so you can imagine that's quite insufficient for any construction projects. But what we do is we leverage the funds that we have set aside for this for other grant funding. So I work closely with DNR on these projects to ensure, because that's typically where we want our nonprofit partners to go to for the construction funding. So what you might see in some of the awards are some odd dollar amounts, and that's typically because they've gotten a DNR award and we're just trying to make them full, or vice versa. So that's the Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant Program. So some of the watershed planning efforts that we are working on, I submitted a grant request to FEMA for fluvial flooding mapping. We have a good data on coastal flooding, but we don't have good ideas around where we see a lot of that nuisance and fluvial flooding. Let's see. So we are working with the Severn River Association and the Center for Watershed Protection on the Severn River Action Plan. And through that plan, they identified the Weems Creek as the #1 priority sub-watershed. So we are working with them on further identifying priority projects through that effort. We also funded the Truxton Cove Watershed Assessment through the Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant Program. And through that, they developed, that was a great effort. That's the picture that you're looking at. That's Amy Clements, where we had some community meetings, and we because it covers 3 separate communities, and pulled people into Moyer Conference Room and asked them about what their concerns were, where they knew there were problems. And then that led to a suite of stormwater BMP projects that we are partially funding over time. And this was a great model. Honestly, this is really how I'd like to see projects identified, is to start up higher in watersheds and identify more localized, smaller BMPs and stormwater facilities where you're targeting the source right before it gets to those already degraded streams, and then treating it up further upstream and then working downstream on restoration. This is a great strategy. I will say it's very expensive because these more smaller local BMPs, it's just a lot of funding, or it takes a lot of budget to mobilize and utility conflicts and all of that. But again, like I said, this is a great approach, and this is a good model for anybody wanting more information about how to do projects. We also are working on the Truxton Heights drainage study. So this is and the South Southwood storm drainage study. These are similar in that these communities were built before modern stormwater regulations, and also really lack any stormwater infrastructure. So these are similar projects in that there will be gray and green solutions associated with them. The Truxton Heights is further along than the South Southwood, though. There's a little bit more information about, I probably got into too much detail. Let's see what I didn't cover with the Truxton Cove. We identified 10 project opportunities. We had multiple community meetings, and now we funded 3 for design. We've also gotten FEMA. We did hear from FEMA. We did get a grant award from FEMA for this project. And we're likely going to be funding a stream restoration project that we've already identified prior to this work. And then we also have been notified that we got a NIFWIF grant as well for this area. And then this is the Truxton Heights drainage study. Let's see, what didn't I cover? Right, I think I got all of that. We had community meetings as well in this area, and this is currently in design. The South Southwood storm drainage study, this was just awarded to a consultant. And like I said, we're going to be looking at gray and green infrastructure. This one is a little bit different in that we have very large right-of-ways so in this area, so we might be looking at some road diets with some green infrastructure and pedestrian and traffic safety objectives as well. We also received a FEMA grant for this one too. So one problem that I identified early on when I got into my stormwater program manager position is that we have a lot of aging gray infrastructure. And so what I initiated was an outfall risk assessment where we looked at the status of all of our outfalls. And you can see here's a picture of one. So what we did is develop the criteria to evaluate each outfall, and then we ranked them. So then we have a tool to help us identify priority outfall repair projects and also downstream restoration opportunities. So when we go in and repair an outfall, we can also look and fix the stream as well. See, so this is some of the criteria that we used to rank the outfalls. We looked at the structural condition, the severity or risk to other infrastructure, dual benefits, and that's where we looked at adjacent stream restoration opportunities, environmental justice considerations, cost was another big factor, land acquisition, grant opportunities, and sea level rise considerations were all the criteria that we used to evaluate our outfalls and rank the priorities. We have started another project right at Merriman Road. I'm not sure if any of you were familiar, but we had a sewer failure last year that was likely due to a stream undermining of the sewer pipe. And we already were aware that the outfall in this area was needing some repair work. So we went in and we fixed the sewer. We were not aware that the close proximity of this sewer line to the undermining of the stream. But this is one of the issues that I was talking about with just our like aging infrastructure. And unfortunately, a lot of our sewer lines just go along with the low point in our streams. But the way we're evaluating this project is we're looking at stream restoration opportunities as well as a sewer repair project. So this project is currently in design. We are hoping to apply for grant funding this year on this project for DNR grant funding for the stream restoration portion. And then, like I said, we are focusing on maintenance of our city-owned facilities. This is called the College Creek Wetland, which is right near the police station on Taylor Avenue. It's right across the road, kind of off of the Lowe's access road behind the new hotel. It's the city's largest owned BMP, and it drains approximately 279 acres. Some of the challenges that we faced were a lack of as-built, hydraulic functioning is still unclear to us, and then there was a lot of legacy dumping of garbage just over cliffs. We cleared the invasives, we put in a new riprap and some gabions, new concrete weir tie-in, dredging, trash removal, and then we developed some as-builts. We're working on some wetland plantings, possibly a pollinator garden. That could be a cool opportunity for partnering with nonprofit groups on monitoring. And then we also want to update our drainage area for this one. But this is, again, what I'm trying to get our program more addressing this deferred maintenance, right? Where we have this wetland that just really hasn't been adequately maintained for many years. So we're having to do a lot of this type of maintenance work. So as I said, we have a new Chesapeake Bay Trust track to help private homeowners, especially with their maintenance of city or of stormwater facilities. And then we are also looking at improving our two green roofs at the police station and Pitt Moyer. We are now getting our heads around all the enforcement that we have to do for stormwater management. It's my least favorite aspect of my job, but we are mandated to ensure people have stormwater facilities on their private property, and we need to make sure that they're adequately maintained. And if they're not, we have to take further action, unfortunately. We are also just making sure that we have up to standard as-built for the stormwater facilities, which we have to have for all stormwater facilities, including private stormwater facilities. So look ahead, we are going to continue collaborating with our nonprofit partners. Really, the Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant Program has helped me facilitate those partnerships because a lot of the grant applications come from our nonprofit partners. And we are collaborating with the Watershed Stewards Academy currently on their replant program. Tree planting is now going to be ramped up. That's going to be led by our city arborist. So there will be more programs that we'll be coordinating with him on. Continue to leverage grant opportunities for our projects that we already have fully designed and permitted. Track and implement new regulatory requirements. So MDE is constantly trying to update their regulations. So we have to keep up to speed on what they're proposing and what that means for our program. We are improving mapping and asset management information. This is a big, heavy lift. It's behind the scenes work that's super critical for our program. And then balancing new projects while also continuing to improve the stormwater maintenance. So here are our emails. You can always reach out to any one of us. We're always happy to share what we know. And so I think that's a good overview on our program. In terms of the Chesapeake Bay Trust projects that we funded, I'm just going to have to wing it here. I remember what was on the agenda. So we funded the Georgetown East community. I think that's a series of 4 microbios. Severn River Association also applied for DNR grant funding. So we basically made them full. So they're able to go to full construction on that. We funded a portion of Wardor. So Wardor, this project is fully permitted as well. That is a series of BMPs and a living shoreline. Like I said, partial funding. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation with them. Hopefully they can build a part of it. We have some ideas on how to get them fully funded as well. We funded the Alliance of the Chesapeake Bay for the maintenance track that I discussed, and then we funded a watershed study for the Annapolis Overlook. I want to continue, each year we get a lot of applications, and we try and take a look at what funding we have available to us, how to keep things moving to construction, but also make sure we have enough projects coming in for planning and design. So, sometimes the scales get a little tipped in different directions, but I always keep an eye towards that. The rate study, I'm honestly not the expert on the rates. What I did is I forwarded the rate study report to Dylan, so he can send that to you all. And that typically is available online. I haven't seen the current one available yet online, but it is available to Dylan, so he can forward it to you all. The consultant that does the rate study presents to the finance committee each spring as part of the budget process, and he is really the expert. I sent that link to Dylan as well. So if you really want the details on how we figure out the rates, I would advise watching the video that I sent to Dylan. He can send that out to everyone. But essentially, overarching is we look at the costs of the program and how much we need to charge people. It's based on an equivalent residential unit, which is essentially the average size of a single-family home. A single-family home is 1 ERU. A multifamily home is half ERU. So when you look at the rates, it'll be a cost per ERU. And then the commercial properties are handled a little differently. They're tiered based on impervious and that equivalent ERU. So I will tell you, we are looking at restructuring. This is all to be determined. The rates took a really different trajectory with the tree canopy work, because council decided that the stormwater rates would cover the tree canopy work. So our rates really went up when that was decided. I think we're looking at a rate increase of 35%, So with that, I think I covered everything that was presented to me that you wanted to discuss. Should we make it a Q&A at this point?
Yes, that was my intention. So we do have plenty of time for questions. I don't have any burning ones myself, so we'll open it up to the group. Marianne, I see you coming off mute.
Yeah, I have I've got a couple of questions. First of all, thank you, Betsy. That was a great presentation. I learned a lot, and just sort of to help me understand sort of a sample project. Can you talk a little bit about Truxton Cove and what those projects are and where they are in the process? Just to specifically outline exactly what the projects encompass.
I have one of my engineers on that, but they're typically like microbios or rain gardens. I believe we also funded the removal of an old tennis court, so removal of impervious, and that I'm honestly not the expert on that suite of 10 projects. They are, like I said, I believe 3 or 4 of them are getting fully designed currently.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and then once they're, and the design has already been funded through a grant. And then once the design happens, then the construction will be funded again through another grant.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And it was the citizens' input in Truxton Cove that brought this to fruition.
Yes, with coordination from the Spa Creek Conservancy.
Okay. Okay.
And they are working with Vernon Husted and Biohabitats.
Okay. So if a citizen had a particular concern about an area, a street, that may have, iffy stormwater practices, would they approach the program, or how would they begin the process?
Yeah, you would start with me or Mike or Jasmine, because we might have information that could, help advise. We are also trying to get the word out to use My Coast, which is an app where you can report flooding concerns. Because when, like I said earlier in the presentation, like we don't have a good handle on where the fluvial and nuisance flooding occurs. And so we're trying to have people upload that information to My Coast as like a data gathering mechanism. But if there's a specific idea for a project, I would say start with either me, Mike, or Jasmine, and we can guide you on what we think would be the best strategy for trying to see a project go forward.
Great. Thank you. And thank you again for the information and the presentation.
Welcome.
Bill, did you have a question? Sorry, you come off mute.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. It's a great presentation. I was curious about the new hotel near the police station. Would you know if that negatively or positively impacted the stormwater conditions for College Creek and that drainage area?
My speculation would be, and I haven't been at the hotel site, but because there was no environmental site design prior, my speculation would be that it improved. It's such a small portion of that overall drainage area that we wouldn't really see, immediate impacts to that wetland down there. So, I mean, I can't really answer that, but that would be my speculation, would be that it probably made things better since they have to meet current stormwater regulations, and it was just a compacted dirt lot before that probably had a lot of sediment running off of it.
Understood. I do have another follow-up question. I live off of Taylor Avenue, and the SRA has approached myself and my neighbors. I have a BMP in my backyard about approving our swale and fixing some of the problems that we've had for many years. My question is, do you folks coordinate efforts with people like the SRA when, choosing which projects to go after?
Absolutely. We're the ones that reached. So you have you have a neighbor that's really upset about that drainage in your backyard. So we don't have the ability to do a lot back there, and this is where our nonprofit partners can be really helpful because they can help coordinate neighbors and do projects more easily on private property. So that's probably why you heard from SRA, because we asked them to come and help.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Betsy?
I had another one if nobody else does, very quickly, also with College Creek. So the improvement of that stormwater area, like behind the police station, um, are there metrics that indicate whether all of that work that you described was effective? Do you collect those kind of metrics to see like the water quality coming out of those flows through that College Creek basin? Have they improved since doing all of that improvement work?
So short answer is no. But longer answer is visually, I can tell you it vastly improved because it was not hydraulically functioning prior to our work. So there was a low flow or overflow wetland that is providing most of the treatment that was getting completely bypassed. So now we restored its hydraulic function. And this is where it was super confusing because we think the plans maybe weren't even accurate. So this was a really, really almost like MacGyver effort. Where we did have an engineer, I'm an engineer, but we hired an engineer to come and help us too, because we needed surveying help as well because we needed to wrap our heads around the elevation. But, we really just all put our heads together and tried to figure out how to make this thing hydraulically function again. And by restoring its hydraulic function, then gets the treatment back in order.
Betsy, maybe you can comment on how close we are to satisfying our MS4 permit with some of these projects. I know last time you made a presentation at council, we were going to be ahead.
Still ahead. So we our 5-year permit expired in 2023. We expect to get annual extensions for 2 years. We're awaiting the new permit. The expectation is we'll be expected to treat 10% more of our existing impervious, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but with our planned projects, we're even looking good to meet that 2030 target as well. But that's obviously with the planned projects. So we'll have to make sure those projects are constructed. So we're ahead.
So we met our 2023 targets, and we will likely, with the planned projects, meet our 2030 targets.
Yeah, and we'll be ahead. I don't always tell MDE how far ahead we are, but
right, because we don't want them to set even higher goals for us.
Yeah.
Whoops, this is recorded. Whoops, hope no one from MDE is listening.
I won't tell anyone. All right, Marianne, I saw your hand go up. Did you have a question still?
Yep, I do. Just a couple of the clarifying questions. The contract that you have with the Alliance of Chesapeake, is that for a study of the maintenance that needs to be done, or is that actually for work? Is that?
And yeah, let me just comment on the MDE stuff quickly.
Okay.
Before I get to that, because if MDE is listening, what I am trying to wrap my head around is the maintenance of our stormwater facilities. And I want to make sure that funding is adequately provided for the maintenance of our stormwater facilities, because if they're not working, we're never going to meet our TMDL goals. So that's why I keep restoration projects in my back pocket, because I just want to make sure that, one, we're also maintaining our facilities while also doing restoration. So I just wanted to make sure I covered that. So the Alliance of the Chesapeake Bay, they are setting up a grant program. So we are not directly contracted with them. We have an agreement with the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So they are administrating that grant to the Alliance. It's not necessarily a study. They're setting up the framework for the maintenance grant program, and then hopefully completing some maintenance based on the framework that we've decided, as well as further information about maybe there might be a community that has a grouping of failed BMPs that we could address this year. What I really want to make sure we also have as part of this grant program is that it's heavy on outreach and education. There's also, it's likely going to be a cost share. So what I'm envisioning is we're going to likely have to do some hand holding with some homeowners to say, this is how you're going to do the maintenance moving forward, right? So we also teach people how they're going to do the maintenance themselves moving forward. Does that answer your question? I hope I did. That's
Yeah. Thank you.
And I noticed in the short description of that project that the Chesapeake Conservation Landscaping Council is also involved as part of that. So that's excellent knowing some of their work. They'll definitely be ideal in not just training and people, but also educating the property owners. So Betsy, I did want to ask about that the outfall risk assessment tool. Was that something that's available like publicly to look at, or is that just internal database?
That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you. I don't know if it's been finalized, but that will become available online. And I'll follow up and make sure I figure out if it's final or not and let Dylan know.
Thank you. And follow up to that then, like, as far as the picture you showed, hopefully that's like the worst one. But in terms of like prioritizing out of those 300 ones, like how many of them are like really bad or approaching as bad as the photo in your slides? And like how long will it take to get through kind of those like highest priority repairs?
Yeah, it's some of them are pretty bad. A handful of them are. I don't know. I think the next step would then to come up with, a plan, right, for how we're going to approach repair and replacement of these. And I need to ramp up that program because I don't want it to impact the rates too much. So we're just going to have to be, cognizant, fiscally responsible and how we plan the program. I will say once the tool is available, we have shared it because, again, it provides some opportunities if anybody has a stream restoration project in mind and it's near one of our failing outfalls, we likely can develop a partnership on this project, on that type of project. So I think that's everything I wanted to say about it. I'll circle back around with Dylan when we get that final product so he can give that to you all.
Thank you. Other questions from the group? And Paul, since we don't see you, do you have anything to ask?
No. This is a little outside my knowledge, so I'm just listening.
All right, thank you.
I just want to say real quick, Betsy was saying earlier that the maintenance program is cutting edge, and it really is. This is really holistic and comprehensive, and I think it'll be a good model going forward for other jurisdictions. Hopefully, I'm really impressed. not only being ahead is great. Not a lot of jurisdictions can say that, but the way that you're actually looking at going through it all and making sure that it's all being maintained is great. A lot of the problems that I had in my previous jurisdiction was when we would go through and we have to inspect every 3 years to report to MDE that BMPs are in good standing. And like she was saying earlier, you lose credit when those BMPs aren't in good standing, and it can be pretty costly. And a lot of the private owners don't want to put in the money to actually bring it back up, or maybe they just don't understand how to get it going. So I think that's really awesome. Thank you, Betsy, for the presentation, for all the great work.
Thank you all. Yeah, I'm happy to come anytime. So just let me know. And if I can't make it, I can also send one of the stormwater engineers.
Yes, thank you very much. And we'll let you go a little bit early and get back on to the rest of our business. And we'll probably talk to you again soon, but hopefully
Okay.
not too soon.
Thanks. I'm going to sign off.
Enjoy
and-
your evening.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you, Betsy.
All right, let me look at the agenda again here. So otherwise, what we had planned for this evening are just kind of the general other business we tend to talk about. Sure, there's at least some updates from city staff. One thing I forgot to include on the agenda was the draft water access action plan. Since that comment period is active to the community until I believe August 30th, and we're not meeting next month. If we want to discuss that, we can maybe carve out some time tonight. But I just want to put that marker down and we can circle back to that if needed. I did go to their July 9th open house, and their first one conflicted with our June meeting. But with that, I'll just look to Jackie or Dylan if you want to go first. We don't have the aldermen or others here, so I think we'll just stick with city staff updates and then circle back to the water access plan.
Okay, so I think all of you have met Dylan at the last meeting. So he is going to be your staff liaison going forward as the new environmental programs coordinator. Rob Savage mentioned at the last meeting that the FY25 budget, the city council also approved for us a new position, an environmental manager, environmental associate, whatever we're going to call it, as an entry-level position. So at that point, I will feel close to being fully staffed, and we can get more projects done more quickly, more efficiently. And I feel like things are starting to move now that Dylan is on board a little bit better. Dylan is finally moving the woefully outdated greenhouse gas inventory. The last time we did this was in 2008, based on our 2006 as a baseline. So we're going to get that out on the street for bids this month, and get that going, and also get a greenhouse gas plan as part of it. So we'll do an inventory of city facilities and in the community, and do a plan as part of that. So we have sufficient funding to do all of those things. I've turned over to Dylan the pollinator habitat at the solar park. So we've had a couple of people that have professed interest, companies professed interest in designing a plan for the park inside and outside of the fence, a design plan and maintenance plan. One has experience throughout Maryland and in the US with sheep grazing as maintenance. So they're building that into their plan as well. So that's a possibility. And then I have money in this year's budget to do like a phase 1 implementation after we have a design. So what we'll have to do is implement the pollinator habitat at the solar park and phase it based on whatever budget they give us for the total project. Interesting to hear from Public Works that they're interested in incorporating pollinator habitat into some of their projects. So I'll have to get Betsy to coordinate with Dylan on making sure they coordinate with our office on those kinds of projects. So I'm glad to hear that they're interested in doing that. Let's see what else we've got going on. Alderman Savage approached us the other recently about passing some bird-friendly window legislation. The state has done this, like the building, for example, at DNR. If you've ever been there, they have bird-friendly types of. There's things on their windows that deter birds from running into their windows, different things on different windows. I've been there for a tour. Some of you might have done that as well. But Alderman Savage started drafting legislation a couple of years ago and then put it down, and now he's picking it up again. So that's something after their August recess he'll pick up again in September. As you probably all know, the plastic bag ban was passed on Monday. That has a 6-month effective date, so that would go into effect at the end of January, and has a 10-cent fee for using for if you decide to take a paper bag from the retailer. There's a 10-cent fee per bag. It's a $500 fine for a first offense and a $1,000 fine for a repeat offense by a retailer if they are handing out plastic bags or not charging the 10-cent fee. And gas power leaf blower ban goes into effect. That was passed earlier this year in January as well. And Dylan was working on getting information out to all the retailers about gas power leaf blower bans so that people don't buy them in the city and start using them, especially our companies that are, landscaping companies. So we're putting that information in Spanish and English. Let's see what else is going on. Dylan, jump in anytime.
Well, you've done a pretty good job. We are expanding EV infrastructure as well. We've been coordinating with a bunch of different organizations, MEA, different people who are, pushing different funding, different methodology. I recently talked with one group that had some pretty interesting methodology for how to actually get EV infrastructure in dense historic areas like downtown Annapolis for relatively cheap. The actual implementation of that depends on a few other factors that you can probably guess. But we're moving that forward. We're trying to get some solar projects done. Betsy was talking about maintenance for some green roofs, so that as well. We're also working on our certification. So we just got recertified for wildlife community. During that same legislative, or rather city council session, Jackie spoke for Bird City as well. I think that really covers a lot of it. Let me double check. It feels like a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and part of that work with MEA and DOE, we also are looking at a bunch of opportunities for solar as well. I know Recon Parks is interested in doing solar on their roof and solar canopies. So we're looking everywhere and anywhere we can put solar, including transportation has some money to do. I think half of their kiosks, their little huts that you stand under when you're at the bus stop. What do you call them? I'm having a moment. But so they want to do the rest of their stands, but they only can do half right now with solar on top of them. So we're looking at perhaps some opportunities there. We're also, the police department is also very interested in, I spoke with Chief of Police at Jackson a couple weeks ago about putting all electric vehicles with police cruisers, and some of the obstacles have been that the officers drive their police cruisers home and they're worried about charging. So we spoke with MEA about installing level 2 chargers at the police officers' homes and also giving them chargers at the police station, including fast chargers at the police station. So MEA is looking into whether they could fund that. They said there's a strong possibility they would like to do that. So trying to find ways to remove obstacles for the fleet rural electric, and also get electric charging stations at the transportation department. They have chargers there for the 2 electric buses they will be receiving this year, but those chargers will be devoted to keeping those buses charged. And they have some other vehicles that are going over to Hudson Street to charge, but there's many vehicles going over Hudson Street to charge, which is the Public Works facility, the new Public Works facility. So we need more chargers at city facilities, which is obvious. We have some Outlanders and Volts and other vehicles that city staff are using for administrative purposes and parking enforcement and getting around the city at various departments, but we don't have chargers except at Hillman Garage, which is also being used by the public, and the 2 that are at Hudson Street. And then there's the ones being used by the buses at the transportation department. So Dylan is looking into funding through Department of Energy and the Maryland Energy Administration for some infrastructure needs. Something else I was going to tell you guys. Oh, climate change litigation. Someone asked me about this recently. Most of you know that the city sued BP and most of the major oil companies for the impacts of climate change that they caused, and for concealing the impacts of climate change from the public and intentionally going on a campaign to say that the impacts of climate change were not caused by fossil fuels and putting out fake science around that. So the city of Annapolis is one of the 30 or more cities and counties around the United States that have sued BP and about 20 other oil and gas companies in the American Petroleum Institute, which is their trade association, for damages caused by the impacts of climate change. So over the last about 3 years, we have been going through a lot of pretrial motions where the defendants were trying to remove the litigation to out of state court to federal court, where they would have a more favorable chance of winning. We have better laws in state courts like the Maryland Consumer Protection Act, and they have failed over and over and over again. And Anne Arundel Circuit Court in July gave a very good ruling in our favor, and we're getting ready to go into the discovery phase. So we thought we were finally going to get this rolling and maybe get into some settlement negotiations. However, also in July, there was a ruling in the Baltimore case where the case was dismissed. The plaintiff's case was dismissed. So they can still appeal, and I think there is a plan to appeal that dismissal, but that was a little bit of a setback. So we're evaluating that and how that might impact our case and other cases that are going forward. That was the first time that there was a setback in the plaintiff's action. So just letting you know, because in my report that I provided you, I had said that there has been, with all of the things the defendant has had to do, they have been tried to do against the plaintiff's case. They have been unsuccessful, but that was before this other ruling came in the Baltimore case where the plaintiff's case was dismissed. So I'm just giving you an update on that.
Also, August is Water Conservation Month.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to be doing a little bit of outreach on that. We have an intern from Indian Creek, and she's doing a great job. So she's going to help us out, do some outreach by Market House, and we'll have some outreach materials made for that.
And I believe the comprehensive plan was adopted or
Yes.
by the council.
July 8th, the comp plan was adopted.
As I learned when I was trying to put in the letter of support and found out it had already passed. So I did get that letter in after the fact.
That is appreciated.
And Kathy, I see your hand raised.
Oh, yeah, I just had 2 questions. With the Baltimore case, do you know why it was dismissed?
It was dismissed. Well, the judge's opinion stated that they felt that they did not have the case should have been, well, they felt that it was not a case for the state court to decide, that this was something that Congress should be deciding.
Okay. I'll have to look that up and read more about it.
It gets really, it's a long opinion.
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
was going to give you guys a summary of it, but I ran out of time today, which I will summarize it for you. But we also need to, we don't have anything on our website, the city website about it. I spoke to the Office of Law about that. And we decided that anything that's been out in the public sphere, we can put on our website is what we've decided. So an opinion is a public opinion. So we can summarize that. There's been some things that, happened recently that we decided, because we get questions from the public. They know that we have sued the oil and gas industry and we get questions about it. So there's a few things, and this isn't the only thing that we don't have a landing page about on the city website, that we need to put some more information out that could be helpful to the public.
My other question was about the EV chargers, and I was wondering if you're hearing from any HOAs of multi-family neighborhoods for how they can put in EV chargers. What are best practices? Is there grant funding to help them out with it? Are you hearing anything from any neighborhoods?
I am not hearing anything from HOAs. Earlier this year, when I still had my fellow, Colin, I had him looking at, some things other jurisdictions were doing with regard to multifamily units, like code, building codes and that sort of thing. He's doing some preliminary research for me on that, and something I can work on with planning and zoning. We do have a grant we're pursuing through the Resilience Authority. I don't think I've told you guys about this. I think it is through the Department of Energy. The Resilience Authority is putting in the grant for us to come up with a model building code that builds in resilience, a building performance energy type of resilience code that's aimed at residences rather than larger buildings, which is a hole in the whole kind of building performance energy code. And it won't require the city to adopt it. It will just provide a framework for the city to work from and technical assistance. And it will do things like, it'll look at multifamily, it'll look at single residence homes, townhomes, multifamily, and things like building in energy efficiencies and things like charging and all of that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that, because it provides us the technical assistance, the know-how, and it pulls in these organizations that do this as a business. So that's the technical assistance part. So I'm hoping that it'll have a lot of that part of it, the EV charging part of it. But I'm not getting questions from anyone from the apartment or condo, anything like that. No one's asked us. We do get inquiries from people who want chargers in front of their houses on, single family homes. So we're exploring where chargers should go, street chargers should go. So we're looking at that comprehensively. We would have to work with Public Works on that. We're talking to BGD is willing to do it. We're looking at the possibility of street chargers. I know that's something Paul Murphy is interested in as well. I have talked to BG&E a little bit about that, and I'm making connections for Dylan with the people at BG&E.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeremy, I seem to be fumbling where to raise my hand. So can I just do this?
Yes, go right ahead, Paul.
I used to see it. So in these areas regarding multifamily, our former mayor, Josh Cohen, is consulting to a charging company that is focusing on multifamily units in apartment buildings, condos, which with our density downtown, may be appealing to some of those buildings. So, you know, I'll talk to Gus and see how much he can spread, info he can spread. But if HOAs, I'm sorry, multi-unit families are interested, Josh has got a lot of knowledge. That's part of his job these days. And then, Jackie, a few years ago, do you remember, what was it called? Gas Ninja? Do you remember that idea the city was looking at?
No.
Well, it was a fueling, not to go long on this. It was a service where they would come and fuel a company, could be a city or a corporation, their trucks. So, moving beyond that, it's, as we have larger events, whether it's, we have X amount of EV charging stations, they're not cheap to put in, and I see in some parts of the country, they've got these trucks that go around and charge vehicles. They're basically, excuse my words, some really big ass trucks, or they're big trucks with huge battery packs in them, and they go around and charge, and it's an app. So, people come from a Navy football game. My goodness, some of those people are driving 30, 50, 150 miles. So it would be nice if, without the upfront cost of putting in charges, just having a service come by and charge these vehicles. So I've seen that. I'll pursue that a little bit more. I mean, plausibly, Jackie, there's a need for that someplace. Football games, boat shows.
Yeah, someone mentioned this to me. I don't know if it was BGE or it was Blue Whale. Someone I was speaking to recently, it could have been Blue Whale, mentioned that to me.
Yeah, and I mean, not to go on, look at BWI. Most of us, when we go to park, you go to the airport for 2 or 4 or 5 days. Why is my car eating up a charging spot which only needs a few hours to charge, and I've been gone for 4 days? So they have these trucks go around and zap your car. So that's Josh Cohen on multifamily. I'll look a little further into the trucks at football fields, and school buses are generally owned by local operators. They're not owned by the county. There's just local businesses, and most of them are fairly small, so they're a little undercapitalized. Jackie or anyone else, Dylan, do you know anything about pushing our local school bus operators to move more to EV? Because it's great. They drive predictable routes at slow speeds with lots of braking. It's a great.
I believe the county is moving that way.
Okay. And just some combination of carrot and sticks to get people to do it.
I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it, but because we're the city, but
I mean,
county is moving that way.
Some incentive, some financing, and different some way to usher them along. Okay. Oh, and what about the light poles? Is that turned to be? I mean,
yeah. So I did speak to BG&E about that. They do have they do electrify light poles, utility poles. New are easier to do than older ones, and I've connected Dylan with BG&E on this. We're trying to figure out which ones are owned by the city, which ones are owned by BG&E. Okay. Because light poles, utility poles are going to be the easiest thing to do, especially in areas like Eastport and there are tighter streets like Maryland Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And speaking of the HOA question earlier, like I'm not on my HOA board or anything, but I know a town-owned community like mine, where there's some reserved spaces, some open spaces, I feel like even suggesting like electric charging spots would be extremely controversial, political, and probably get me ostracized. But the opportunity potentially, like if our light poles where there aren't spaces already existing and figure out a way to like electrify those, like that could be a solution for communities like mine.
Jeremy, that's part of the whole puzzle. So we have to look at the need and the desire, and it's going to be a lot of community outreach and education. And that people have to understand, yeah, you might want one in front of your house, but it's not your personal space or charger. It becomes, and when you put one in, then you're going to have, if you put one L2 in, then you have 2 spaces automatically. You're always going to have 2 spaces on an L2. And they probably are going to want to do, BG&E that is, to make it worthwhile, they'll probably want to put 2 L2s in. So now you're talking about 4 spaces on a street. Okay, so the neighborhood, it's going to have to be some buy-in there. It's going to have to be some public education. Now you're removing on a street 4 spaces that we're reserving for charging. And then there's going to be parking enforcement that comes in and fines you when you park in that space and you're not charging. So especially on some of these tighter streets. I mean, I know what it is like to park. I used to live in Georgetown in DC, and those spaces are coveted, and you get that space and you're not moving. And it's, you know, then you take out 4 spaces or even 2 spaces on those streets, you know, it's tight.
Yeah.
But I mean, more and more, you know, electric vehicles are coming in, more people want to charge. And in fact, the matter is some of these streets do not have driveways. They do not have carports. They don't have garages to charge in. So, you know, you don't have a lot of options. So people, you know, it's going to be a public education, something to get used to, just like bringing your own bag to the grocery store.
Yeah. And I know our street is actually an HOA street. So that's another layer.
It's a whole nother landmine. Yes, Jeremy.
All right. Let's see, was there any other updates? I don't think we've heard anything lately about Athens, and I haven't seen anything in the papers. But that was one thing I've been curious about. I'm not sure if there's any news or that's still.
So Dylan, that's an assignment for you. Update on the Athens development. You have to get that from planning and zoning.
And any other updates from either you or Dylan, or questions from?
I've just noticed that the affordable housing development on Forest Drive is really perking along. And I saw that very interesting article in the Capitol about, is it the American Legion next door is partnering with them on a garden?
Oh, good.
It was a really interesting article. Yeah, it was kind of cool.
One other thing I'm going to bring up. Oh, by the way, back to whoever said something about the comp plan, that it was passed on July 8th. Eric Lashinsky was in a meeting with me today, and he said there's a few little tweaks that they're making to it, and then it'll be final on the website. I mean, you can still see the draft on the website, but they're just tweaking it a little bit, and then you can see the final version on the city website. But it won't be very much different from, you know, I think it's more formatting than anything else is what you're going to see. And then Dylan noticed that we have ourselves, you know, we're a bee city, we're a bird city, we're a sustainable Maryland city, all these certifications we have it as a wildlife something under National Wildlife Federation. We're a wildlife something certified city. Well, apparently we were, but we're not. So Dylan's working on getting us recertified. And then apparently we didn't have to do anything for a long time, but you know, he looked into it and we actually do. So he's working on getting us recertified. And then I think there's some things we can do to promote, you know, that kind of habitat that you can make in your yard. And go on, Dylan, you can explain it. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously.
Well, part of getting recertified, and we just got the certificate, so we're good now. But you know, it is outreach campaigns, and so something that I'm hoping to partner with Marissa Whitlinger about is a greenscape. So we're going to try to include different outreach materials, so how you can, you know, make your property more wildlife, more pollinator friendly. So we're trying to establish more of a corridor throughout the city so that wildlife, you know, isn't being hurt by different maintenance strategies or different construction. So yeah, some of that's going to be residential involvement, you know, citizen participation, but we're also looking at, you know, how we can just improve it from our perspective as well. But we're trying along in that, yeah. So happy to get that.
Yes. So that discussion about comp plan triggered that because we had included in the comp plan wildlife corridors. Preserving green spaces to function as wildlife corridors was one reason to preserve some of the green spaces. And I did notice when I first started working for the city and I was walking around in Murray Hill, I did note somebody's yard had a wildlife habitat certification plaque on it. And I saw one somewhere else. I was like, oh, we're wildlife habitat certified by National Wildlife Federation. I never even knew that. So we're going to bring it back. We're going to get ourselves recertified and then promote that so that people can, actually there's a program, you can follow the steps, you can get this sign put in your yard, we can, we can do some public education around it so people understand the benefits of it and what they can do in their own yard to, help with it.
I would appreciate help. I've been trying to make my little garden into a pollinator garden, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I can.
Yeah, we also have that Bee City certification in Bird City. There's like another sign you can get if you meet all the criteria that the city does give out if you meet the criteria. And we need to promote them more, these programs more. So we need to start doing that.
All right. Well, I don't have any other questions.
Jeremy, so is this commission going to submit something from the public water access plan by the August 30th deadline?
That's what I was going to circle back to. So I know we had discussed that in passing last month, and I think given it is tied to our priorities, we do want to provide something, but I also learned like this is just comment period, and it's not really going straight from August 30th to like a council vote, right? So I think there's going to be ample opportunity after the comment period to then wait until we would then like maybe do a separate letter to council or others to like say we support this or something. So what I'm thinking right now, and I'm not sure if we would need to take a vote if we're just kind of offering like questions or suggestions on the draft plan. So that's something we would vote on because we don't have a list of those things right now, but I was going to suggest we just kind of crowdsource things because I personally have not dove in to the plan. I've seen the presentations and everything, but I haven't like gone into the detail to figure out what am I confused about or what do I have suggestions about. So
I don't think you'd have to vote on anything if you just as a commission are going to combine all of your thoughts and submit them. Like these are the thoughts and questions from the commission as a whole.
Okay. I mean, that's what I was imagining we could do between now and August 30th.
Yeah, deadline. And then later, if you're going to submit a formal letter later, you guys have to vote and agree on it.
Right. Yeah. I figure we'll have time to figure out the timeline on that later. So does that sound good to people? I can just create a Google document and we can just, between now and the end of August, list any questions or thoughts or comments you have on the draft plan. I'll format that, send it into the, I think there was a form or a email address.
Yes, Jeremy.
Sounds good to me.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone need the link or the draft plans again? Linda? Okay, we can resend that out. And I think that there's a web page, but I can't recall like where on the city site you'd find it. I would say the July 9th event at Pitt Moyer, the room was full. I think Rick Hutzler had an article in the banner that morning or the day before, and there were some questions from the community, some of which I didn't fully catch. I think there was some concerns over one particular access point and a potential contract between the city and a
Oh, I think it was
But-
Crab. I think it was Crab, the Chesapeake Regional Accessible Boating on Back Creek.
Yeah, that actually didn't come up as much as some of the other, like Truxton Park facility or boathouse or something, which surprised me. I think that was not really news, but I know there were some concerns.
Were they talking about the stray electrical current?
That was pointed out, but no, this was something else. Sorry.
Okay.
I can't recall the specifics, but since you brought that up, has that been resolved? I know it was on an agenda for a work session.
Yeah. Yeah, that was on a work session last Thursday, and you can view that online on YouTube. And so we had the contractor from Engineering Design Technologies, who's a marine electrical engineer company. They did the data collection and the analysis for the city, and they did it in the vicinity of the Truxton boat ramp and the dock there, Harbor Master's dock, and neighboring areas and other piers along that area. And then we asked them to go back and do readings by what is fondly called the Rickety Bridge across Spa Creek. It's behind the Truxton Pool. There's a bridge that spans Spa Creek down at the behind Truxton Pool and down the road. That is an area the city is considering creating another kayak launch in that area. And there's a bridge that spans the area, and people call it the Rickety Bridge because it's getting a little dilapidated, and the city will replace it eventually. So we did readings there as well, since it's being considered for another kayaking launch area. And overall, what the findings were that they did not find readings of concern during their data testing done in March, and then we had them retest in June so we could get peak boating season readings in heavy pier use, electrical pier use. You know, overall, what they recommend is that you should never swim near electrified piers because you don't know whether people have grounded their piers properly. It's just not recommended. And that's within the last 5 years or so what the industry is recommending. It's not that this is new. It's something new is happening. It's just, you know, there's been a lot of electrical shock drownings where people don't know why the person drowned. There's just been someone's drowned. They're like, but they were such a great swimmer, and they don't see burn marks on them or anything you might see when someone's been electrically shocked. You know, you have to have a very, very high amperage to get burn marks from electrical shock, and that doesn't show up all the time. Usually the person's been shocked enough that it immobilizes them and then they drown. So with, you know, electrical shock drowning. So the recommendation is you don't swim around piers in a busy area. But they didn't find any high readings in the water. They found some higher readings in the ground. They said, which makes sense that if unused power was traveling back to a BG&E substation, it would make sense to find it in the ground. But again, not readings of concern. So what has happened between when we initially detected readings of concern in 2021 and now? BG&E did make some adjustments to its substation. It did replace a transformer, not because they thought they had to, but just in case, because one was apparently may have been hit by an electrical storm. They replaced some of their transformer lines. They made some other adjustments. And then the city replaced some overhead lines. They made some other electrical adjustments around the dock area. And then BG&E retested, and they found that there was some reduction in the electrical current in the water. And it may have been enough to reduce the readings to where they are right now. So the electrical current was always intermittent. It wasn't constant, and it was experienced only by a couple of people, but it was enough of a concern that the city did shut down that area so that we could do more testing. We didn't want to have anyone injured there or a fatality, obviously. So as of right now, as soon as, as of last Thursday, the Truxton boat ramp area was reopened to kayakers and paddlers. We do not recommend swimming there. because it is people are putting in boats there, and there's a lot of piers there that are electrified, and so it's just not recommended for swimming. In general, it's not recommended to swim around electrified docks. But so it's been open since last Thursday. I directed the harbor master to bag the signs and remove them as soon as possible, but at least put bags over them, the ones that said no kayaking or paddling. And that was done immediately. So but you can watch that presentation to City Council. It was an open session on YouTube.
Thank you for that synopsis very much. Yeah, so are there any general updates or news from members of the commission?
No. Well, I'm just going to add, because electrocution is somewhat of a serious issue, obviously. Jackie, there's a couple of notable bottom divers, clean boat bottoms. And this electrification, for all our general awareness, is much more dangerous in freshwater. So I'm assuming brackish water would be worse than ocean water. Really dangerous in freshwater. And these people have little monitors that can be dipped into the water to measure the current, the danger level. So I'll get a hold of them. And who at the city should they talk to? You to start with?
Well, our electrical inspector is Clint Pratt in the Department of Planning and Zoning.
Yeah, because maybe a couple of these monitors.
But also, you should provide that kind of information about electrical current to our harbor master, Beth Bellis.
Okay.
Yeah, she will want to know if there's any dangerous areas. So both of them should know. But definitely Beth Bellis should know. And and I don't know if you know that, but the harbor master reports to me now.
To you? Okay.
Yeah, it's been reporting to me for the last couple of years.
Soon Gavin will be reporting to you.
I don't think they're going to quite carry it that far.
Okay, that's
but yes, I'm very busy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Paul. Any other issues or updates folks want to raise now? We are ahead of schedule. All right, well, so one action item we have then is compiling our questions, comments on the draft water access plan. So I'll get an email out about that with a link and some information sometime soon. I might take, since we're getting it out now, I might get that out of the way this evening. And then otherwise, just a reminder, we're not meeting in August. So our next meeting will be the 4th Wednesday in September. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but we'll sort that out. And I think September and October, we have our normal, well, September, October, and November, we'll have our normal 4th Wednesday meetings, but I forget December, I think we canceled as well. So just a few meetings remain for us in this calendar year.
And Jeremy.
Oh, did Jackie cut out for others too?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll wait a minute. And Linda, go ahead while we wait for Jackie to reconnect.
I just want to tell you the 4th Wednesday in September is the 25th.
Thank you. So September 25th is our next meeting.
Yeah.
It looks like Jackie reconnected or is in the process of reconnecting.
Back.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. We lost you after my name. So
I know.
anything after
I
that.
just said, we'll figure out the minutes.
Yeah, well, have extra month. So I think we'll all be using it, using that to catch up on various things, and hopefully also enjoying some time off in summer evenings now that they've cooled off a little bit, at least earlier in the month. All right. Well, I don't have anything else, so I just want to thank everyone again for joining us this evening, and we'll see you all again in September. Thank you to the city
you,
staff
Jeremy.
and all our members. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.